Okay, so I've had a request on crazy ways that fish have died. Now, obviously, being in the hobby for as long as I've been in, I've seen some fish die in some pretty crazy ways. Now, this list that I'm about to tell you are the things that have just come to my head straight away. And I'm sure if I stopped and actually thought about it, I could think of a lot more weird and crazy ways that fish have died. So the first one that I am thinking of is a couple of fighting fish that we had on display in a divided tank in the store. And one of the fish actually jumped over the divider and got into the tank with the other fighting fish. Technically, I don't know how they actually did it because the gap between the top of the divide and the lid was less than my estimation of the body of the fish. But nevertheless, it did it, and they both had a fight and both killed each other. So I came in to find two dead fighters in one side of the divide. Another time when I was a young kid, I had a couple of green eels, a large one and a smaller one, and I was devastated one morning to wake up and find the large one had swallowed the small one. So literally half the eel was in the mouth of the big one with the tail hanging out, and both of them were dead. Another time, a lady in the shop that had one of those big beehive style 60s haircuts, big buffy hair, something had sort of like, she said it sort of bumped her in the hair, and then she sort of felt her hair and everything seemed to be in order. And then later that night when she got home and she did her hair down, she actually found a fish in her hair, which means the fish had actually jumped out of the tank, and when she'd felt something like bump, that was actually the fish entering her hair, and it peacefully died in her hair, in which when she put her hair down that night, she found the dead fish. Another time when I was a kid and I was keeping an eel, I had an eel climb out of my fish tank, turn right, go down a hallway, turn left, go down another hallway, turn right, go down some stairs, turn right, go down another set of stairs, go through a hallway, go through the lounge room, and then end up under my dad's car in a bit of oil. So that was a pretty epic adventure for an eel that had got out of my room when I was young. Another time I had a large giant gourami, and I was devastated to find that it smashed the heater and completely electrocuted itself and turned itself into soup. That and the other fish in the tank having 240 volts going through the tank for obviously a period of time. This was back in the days before the things like safety switches. Another time before the day of safety switches, we had a trigger and it ate through the power cord and electrocuted itself. Another time I had a 4-foot groper in my shark tank, and it swallowed a big wobbegong shark, in which it was not able to process that much and actually killed itself. I also had a friend of mine, Dang, who had an aquarium, and a car ran off the road and went through his window and smashed into his fish tank. So literally his fish were hit by a car. I also had a giant trevally. I had a blue trevally in my shark tank, and it swam full speed into the wall and knocked itself out and killed it. I've also seen silver sharks and silver dollars do that. And then another time I had a silver shark, and it jumped out of its tank and landed in a reef tank, and we found it dead the next day, a saltwater tank with a freshwater fish in it. And then another time I had a big black shark in a tank with a lid on it, and it smashed through the lid so fast, so hard, that it jumped over another rack, and then it actually landed in a closed foam box. So we looked everywhere for this bloody thing, because it was a huge fish, there's no way it could go missing, and we ended up finding it in a closed foam box with a bunch of other stuff. So anyway, I'm sure I could think of heaps more epic ways that fish have died over the years. But put a little note on the bottom of this video if you can compete with any of these. What are the strange, weird, and epic ways that fish have chosen to die?